What if everything you've been told about hard work is only half true? What if the reason you're still stuck isn't because you're lazy or unlucky or behind, but because you've been working hard in all the wrong places, while the real work, the kind that actually changes your life, is sitting there untouched? Somewhere right now, someone with less talent than you, less money than you, fewer advantages than you, is outworking you. Not because they're smarter, because they made a decision you haven't made yet. And by the end of this, you're going to know exactly what that decision is and why most people never make it. Let's start with the trap almost everyone falls into. Most people don't fail because they stop trying. They fail because they find a level of effort that feels safe and they stay there. It's not laziness, it's comfort dressed up as effort. You wake up, you go through the motions, you do enough to feel like you're moving, and that feeling becomes the goal instead of the actual result. The gym you go to twice a week and call consistent. The business you work on for an hour after a 9-hour shift and call hustling. The skill you practice only when you feel inspired. None of that is wrong, but none of it is the thing that changes your life either. It's motion without momentum. And the brutal truth is the market, the scoreboard, the results, they don't care how hard something felt. They only care what got done. So here's the first shift you need to make. Stop asking, am I trying hard? And start asking, would this level of effort embarrass someone who's actually serious? That question alone will wreck your excuses, but that wasn't the real problem. The real problem runs deeper. We've all bought into a myth, the idea that some people are just built different. That the athlete who dominates, the founder who scales a company past everyone else, the artist who breaks through, that they were simply wired for it, chosen somehow, while the rest of us were left with ordinary tools. It's a comforting story, because if talent is the deciding factor, then your current results aren't really your fault. But it's a lie, and it's an expensive one, because it lets you off the hook exactly when you need to be on it. What actually separates people isn't raw ability. It's repetition nobody sees. It's the version of practice that happens after the excitement wears off, when there's no audience, no highlight reel, no one keeping score but you. Talent gets you attention. Reps get you results. And the people who look gifted from the outside are almost always the ones who quietly logged thousands of hours no one clapped for. Which brings us to something most people never actually witness. Every result you admire has a room behind it. A room with no cameras, no motivation most days. Just a person showing up when it would have been easier not to. The writer rewriting the same page for the 11th time. The founder answering emails at midnight after a day that already broke them. The athlete running the extra mile in the dark because tomorrow's competitor might be doing the same thing. Nobody posts that room. Nobody wants to watch 3 hours of someone failing at the same rep over and over. But that room is the entire story. Everything you see in public is just the tip of what happened in private. If you want the result, you have to want the room. Not the highlight, the repetition that makes the highlight possible. Now here's the part that should actually scare you a little. Think about the moment most people quit. It's rarely at the beginning. Beginnings are exciting, full of hope and noise. People quit in the middle, the point where progress goes quiet, where the results haven't shown up yet, but the discomfort has fully set in. That's the exact point where almost everyone turns back, and it's usually 1, 2, maybe 3 pushes away from the breakthrough. You don't get to see how close they were. Neither did they. That's what makes stopping there so dangerous. Not that they failed, but that they'll never know how close they came, and some version of that thought will follow them for years. The cost of quitting early isn't just the lost result. It's the quiet what if that shows up at 2 a.m. for the rest of your life. That's not meant to scare you into anxiety. It's meant to scare you into finishing. But there's a flip side to this that rarely gets said out loud because it doesn't fit the highlight reel version of hard work. Working harder than ever doesn't mean working every waking hour, sacrificing sleep, or wearing burnout like a badge of honor. That version of hard work is just as dangerous as not trying at all because it doesn't last. Anyone can sprint. The people who actually reach the far end of a long goal are the ones who learn the difference between intensity and endurance. Intensity gets you noticed. Endurance gets you there. That means rest isn't the opposite of hard work. It's part of the system, the same way recovery is part of training. Skip it, and you don't get further ahead. You just break down faster, quietly, until the same effort that used to move you starts working against you. So when we talk about working harder than ever, this isn't about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about sustainable intensity. Showing up hard, recovering on purpose, and coming back the next day still standing instead of collapsing 3 weeks in and calling it inevitable. Which leads to the real engine behind everyone who's actually built something lasting, and it's not motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up when things are new, when the goal feels close, when your energy is high, and it disappears the second any of that changes. If you're relying on motivation to carry you through the hard, boring middle of any goal, you will lose every time because motivation was never built for the middle. Discipline is what survives the middle. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It just asks, what did you say you'd do and are you doing it? People who reach the top of anything aren't the ones who felt like working every day. They're the ones who built a system so their effort didn't depend on feeling like it at all. Show up at the same time. Do the non-negotiable minimum even on the worst day. Let identity replace willpower, not I'm trying to work out, but I'm someone who trains, period, no debate. That single shift removes the daily negotiation with yourself, and the daily negotiation is where most people lose the fight before it even starts. Now, even with discipline in place, something will still go wrong. It always does. And what happens next is where everything gets decided. Failure isn't the opposite of progress. It's part of the mechanism. Every serious builder, competitor, or creator has a graveyard of attempts that didn't work. The difference isn't that they avoided failure. It's what they did with it. Most people treat a setback as a verdict, proof that they're not good enough, not cut out for it, not meant for this. But a setback is just data. It's information about what doesn't work yet, which means it's actually moving you closer, not further away, if you're willing to look at it that way. The people who end up on top usually failed more than the people who quit. They just refuse to let any single failure be the final word. There's another trap hiding right next to the first one. And it's sneakier because it looks like progress. It's the trap of preparation. Endless research, endless planning. Watching video after video, reading book after book, telling yourself you're getting ready, when really you're just avoiding the moment where your work gets tested against reality. Preparation feels productive because your brain rewards you for it. New information, a sense of control, the illusion of movement. But preparation without execution is just a more sophisticated way of standing still. At some point, the research has to stop and the reps have to start because you cannot think your way into a result that only exists on the other side of doing. The people you admire didn't wait until they felt ready. They started before they were ready, and they became ready in the process. Readiness isn't a prerequisite for action, it's a byproduct of it. So if you've been circling something for months, gathering more information than you'll ever use, that's not caution. That's fear wearing a disguise. And the only way through it is to lower the stakes of starting, not I'm launching my life's work today, but I'm doing the smallest real version of this today, and then building from there. Now let's talk about something almost nobody mentions when they talk about hard work. The people around you. You can have the discipline of a machine and still get pulled backward because environment beats willpower more often than people want to admit. If everyone around you treats mediocrity as normal, treats ambition as arrogance, treats your effort as something to mock or minimize, that pressure adds up, quietly, day after day, until you start shrinking to match the room. This isn't about cutting people off dramatically, it's about being honest with yourself about which conversations leave you smaller and which ones leave you sharper. Proximity is not neutral. You will rise or fall to the average of what surrounds you, whether you notice it happening or not. So build your circle the same way you'd build any other system, on purpose, not by accident. And here's the thing about all of this that people rarely say out loud. None of it gets easier, not really. The people who look like they've made it are usually carrying a heavier version of the same weight, bigger goals, bigger risks, bigger consequences for slowing down. The work doesn't shrink as you grow. Your capacity to handle it does. That's the actual reward, not an easier road, but a stronger version of you that can carry more without breaking. If you're waiting for a point where the effort finally becomes optional, that point doesn't exist. What exists is the version of you that stops needing it to be optional, because the work has become who you are, not just something you tolerate to get somewhere else. So somewhere in all of this, there's a line. A specific moment that will show up in your life, probably sooner than you think. A moment where continuing will feel pointless, where quiet doubt will start whispering that maybe this isn't for you, that maybe it's fine to ease off just this once. That moment is not a signal to stop. That moment is the test. Everyone who has ever built something worth having has stood exactly where you're about to stand, staring at that same doubt, and made a choice. Most people choose comfort. A few choose the work. And the ones who choose the work are the ones whose names you actually remember. There's one more thing worth saying before we get to where this leaves you, because it's the part most people quietly get wrong about working harder. They assume it means doing more of everything, more hours, more tasks, more hustle stacked on top of hustle. But volume isn't the same as progress, and busy isn't the same as effective. You can work 60 hours a week on the wrong things and end up further behind than someone who worked 20 hours on the right ones. Working harder than ever isn't just about intensity, it's about direction. Before you ask, how do I put in more effort? Ask, is this effort even pointed at the thing that matters? Because it's entirely possible to be exhausted, stretched thin, and still standing exactly where you started, simply because the hours went into busy work instead of the few things that actually move the needle. Real hard work is focused. It says no to 100 distractions so it can say yes fully to the handful of things that count. That's not a smaller version of hard work, it's a sharper one. So here's where that leaves you. You don't need more time. You don't need better luck, more talent, or a different set of circumstances. You need one decision, made consistently, on the days it counts the least, because those are the only days that actually shape who you become. The version of you that you're chasing isn't waiting somewhere in the future for the right conditions. It's built in the room nobody sees, one rep at a time, starting with the next hour, not someday. The question was never whether you're capable. You already know you are. The only real question left is whether you're willing to work like it, even when no one's watching, even when it's slow, even when it would be so easy to stop. Because a year from now, this exact moment will look like one of two things. Either it'll be the moment you look back on as the turning point, the day the excuses stopped and the work started. Or it'll be one more forgettable moment in a long line of almosts, indistinguishable from every other time you meant to start and didn't. Nobody else decides which one it becomes. Not your circumstances, not your luck, not the people around you. Just you and whatever you choose to do in the next 24 hours. So don't wait for the version of yourself that feels ready, motivated, and certain. That version shows up after the work, not before it. Start now, start small if you have to, but start. Because the only real difference between the people who get everything they want and the people who spend their lives wondering what could have been is that one group decided to work harder than ever, starting on an ordinary day that looked exactly like this one.